coach, wellness warrior expert out there. And today I'm so happy to bring you Erin Knight. Erin, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Elaine.
Yeah, of course. So Erin, we're going to be talking about migraines today. And Erin is the founder of Engineering Radiance and the creator of the Migraine Freedom Plan. Who doesn't want freedom from migraines, right? It's a 4-step process to get to the root cause of your migraine and really get your life back again. So I'm really happy to have you here, Erin. And before we start, I want to know, I'm curious, like, how did you get into this world?
Good question. So my first experience with migraines was actually as a little kid watching my mom suffer with migraines. Mm-hmm. I remember going on this family vacation, just one of many times this happened, but we traveled to Spain, and my dad and my sister and I were excited to go out and look at the art and the architecture and everything like that. But we felt so bad that my mom had to stay back in the hotel room and just really nauseous, had to stay in the dark room and miss out for a couple of days of the whole experience. And if you ask anybody in my family what I was like as a little kid, I was always running up to anybody, like aunts and uncles, grandma, coming into the house. I'd run up to them with my Fisher Price stethoscope and want to give them a checkup. So I was like, I was even a toddler. I was drawn to wanting to help people. So here I was, this little girl that wanted to help everybody feel better, and I couldn't do anything for my mom when she was like that. You know, it was so frustrating, A, to miss out on that time with her, and then B, to just not be able to help her. And I think that left a really big impression on me growing up. And later on, I started to have chronic headaches too as a teenager. Eventually migraines as well. And had grown up just not really thinking there was much that you could do about it. You take some painkillers, you avoid your triggers. I tried an elimination diet on the advice of my doctor, which was kind of a disaster. We can talk about that later maybe. But I tried different medications and things that, the advice at the time to balance your hormones was to try birth control. Obviously, why wouldn't that work? So I was on that for a long time to try to minimize those menstrual migraines, and nothing really worked. I just tried to learn how to eat on a schedule, to sleep on a schedule, and have this routine that minimized them. So I went from having them many times a week to just once in a while. So I was an engineer in big companies like L'Oreal and Amgen and things like that, doing continuous process improvement. So I wouldn't have them unless I had to give a big presentation, I had to go to a conference, those big stressful events, which is of course the worst time to have them. So so it was kind of frustrating, but I didn't feel like there was much I could do. But then I really hit a turning point in the ripe old age of around 27. So all these things came to a crashing halt because what I've learned since is that migraines, like any other symptoms like acne or digestive issues or achy joints and things like that, is your body's cry for help. And then trying to get you to pay attention to some underlying issues. So I had not been paying attention to these issues, and I was on NSAIDs, which we now know damage the gut. I was taking birth control, which we know really damages the gut. And this spiraled on to me reaching a point where I was not digesting my food. I was coming in one side, coming out the other side, instantly for a year. And I really took me a long time to figure out what was going on. And I think because of the malnutrition, I had chronic pain, and got to a point where I was saying to myself, I can't live like this. It's one thing to manage your migraine triggers, and it's definitely inconvenient, and you miss out on a lot of time with your friends and family, but this was completely unacceptable to me that doctors were telling me there's nothing I could do. And I really wanted to figure this out. I was like, heck, I'm an engineer, I solve problems. Right. Be able to figure this out. So I started to learn about functional medicine. And it really clicked for me. Again, being an engineer, functional medicine is all about addressing things at the root cause, which our listeners probably have heard about a little bit at this point. So you look at how your body systems are balanced and working together, and how they should be working versus maybe running some labs and figuring out what could be off and what needs to be tweaked in your lifestyle and things like that. So this made total sense. I was just hungry to learn more. I spent tens of thousands of dollars trying out different modalities and tests and learning, taking courses and like really putting these pieces together. And then I said I was trying to solve these problems, the gut and chronic fatigue, chronic pain, and things like that. It took a while. It took a couple of years to really make a difference. But when I looked back at the other end, I realized that I was no longer sensitive to the things that had triggered migraines before. So the jet lag, the presentations, the noisy environments, the bright lights, thunderstorms. I just wasn't sensitive to triggers the way I had been. I really wasn't suffering at all with migraines anymore. I mean, I think of somebody that's prone to them may get them again if they fall off the wagon totally or something like that. I don't think you cure migraines really, but I had built up this resilience just by working on the foundations of my health, which was amazing. And it was so freeing to not carry the burden around of worrying about, did I forget my medication at home?
Right.
Or am I going to go to this party and then feel awful and have to leave, or et cetera, et cetera. It's just freeing. And that's why I call it the Migraine Freedom Program, because it's one thing, again, to be free of the pain, but it's another thing to live your life the way you want to live it and not have that the thoughts about triggers anymore.
Yeah.
They're just so strong. So yeah, I realized nobody was talking about this, that it's even a possibility. And I felt obliged to just reverse engineer what had worked and start sharing that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So today we're going to go over a couple of, let's see, areas, right? So we're going to identify some hormonal imbalances, the hangry, and the bathtub theory, right?
Yes.
We're going to go through 3 points, right? That's
frequently asked questions.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to let you take it away. I'm going to be here in the background, but it's all you.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Just cut me off if I'm rambling. So the first thing I wanted to share with you guys today is about identifying hormone imbalances, because I think a lot of people can relate to the idea that your hormones are playing a role, especially those, like I had cyclical migraines that get worse or pop up right before my period started. Very common. And so that's a good entryway to looking at root causes. And is it okay if I share my screen?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So good. So there's different, when I say hormones, you're probably immediately thinking about estrogen and progesterone and the sex hormones, which is a big one and easy one to test for. Often see either imbalances such as PCOS can be a role, or just low progesterone and estrogen dominance will show up on a test that I like to use called the Dutch hormone test, and we can get into more about why that's awesome. But I'm going to run you guys through a little self-check so you can get an idea of whether or not you might want to investigate some of these areas further. Another one that's common that people have problems with is if your adrenals are, let's say, off. We don't call it adrenal fatigue anymore, but if the cortisol pattern is disrupted, or maybe you have low or high DHEA, then that can mess up all the other hormone systems. And then the third one I've got here is insulin resistance, which again ties into PCOS. So I feel like maybe half of the women that I talk to have identified that they have PCOS symptoms already. So there's a big overlap with migraines. And at the root of that is usually some trouble managing blood sugar and things like that. So our second topic for today will be, after we talk about hormones, will be how to kind of mitigate that and manage that in the meantime while you're working on the root causes. Mm-hmm. And for me, I call it hangry headaches, because for me, I used to really get hangry basically if I ate lunch even 2 hours late, or heaven forbid skipping a meal. That would be a huge trigger, almost a guaranteed migraine. So there's some things you can do to investigate why you're having that, as well as, preparing yourself with lots of an arsenal of healthy snacks and things like that, so you just don't put yourself in that situation. And then finally, if your thyroid hormones are way off, or really imbalanced right now, it can be hard for your body to heal and do other things. So it's a good idea to get those checked out as well if you have like typical symptoms of um, hypothyroidism, which is really common. So the next couple of pages, I'll go a little bit slow so you can follow along with me and take a little quiz. And this isn't diagnostic, of course, it's just a little quick check. But why I'm doing this and why this can be helpful is just to give yourself an idea of which area might be worth reading more about, investigating more. And if you need a copy of this worksheet, you can get it at engineeringradiance.com/free gift. And you can actually download this, and if I'm going too fast or something like that, but I'll walk you through it, and you can just take notes on your desk. And then the last page will be a key, so you can correlate with whatever your answers are. So for section A, so there's A through F. For section A, rank each of these from 0 to 3 on a little notepad, and then give yourself a total for section A. So increased weight gain, even though you're watching what you eat, if you're feeling tired and sluggish, or if you feel cold all over, especially your hands and feet. Rank each of those, where 0 is something that doesn't really affect you, and 3 is a really big deal in your life. And then give yourself a sum for section A. Section B, what we're looking at is if you feel this hangry feeling, basically means you're shaky, lightheaded, or irritable if you miss a meal. If you feel really tired and then have a snack and you get energized again. And if you feel like you're craving a lot of sweets throughout the day. Give yourself a score for each of these, and then a total for section B. So section C is a little bit different. If you eat and you just feel like food coma after lunch, for example, feel more tired than after you ate because you're like having to digest it and things like that. If you feel like you specifically crave sweets after a meal, if you really like to have those desserts, you have a sweet tooth after you eat. If you find that you are always running to the bathroom and at the same time always thirsty, can't quite get hydrated. Section D, if you tend to wake up early in the morning, or wake up a lot throughout the night, if you crave salt, and if you find that you just can't get going in the morning, you're just really not a morning person right now, maybe you used to be in your life, but right now it's just hard to get going in the morning, then put a score from 0 to 3 for each of these and give yourself a total. For section E, if you have trouble falling asleep at night, if you're kind of like wired at nighttime, if you find that you perspire more than you think would be normal for the situation, maybe more than other people in the room or more than you used to, or if you're just under incredible amounts of stress on a day-to-day basis, give yourself a ranking. And last but not least, if you've noticed a decline in the libido, if you are worried about bone or muscle loss, or you've seen changes in your hair and nails, give yourself a score for each of these. And this is section F, so it's our last section. Get a total. The good thing about this being recorded is if I went too fast, you can do it again. But now we'll move on to the key, the answer key, basically. So if you look here at the bottom, each of those sections, A through F, is correlating to being, each of the symptoms that we talked about are pretty typical of somebody who's suffering or struggling in one of these areas. So again, this is not a diagnostic. It's just meant as a tip-off that this might be an area that you want to start reading about, get tested on, start talking to your practitioner about, and find out if this could be at the root of, why you're not having the energy and zest for life that you think you should be, or even a root cause for migraines. Okay.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so go back to that slide real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry, wrong way. Okay, so I'm going through this myself, and
Okay, good.
and I'm not the one that like has the migraines, but I know
it can show up differently for different people.
Yeah, but so I'm just saying out loud, just to like section A, B, C, like I could have problems in all of those areas.
You could, and they're
Right.
all interrelated.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about that Dutch test is we don't see information about the thyroid specifically, but we're going to get information about most of these other areas. And I was going to share with our listeners if they haven't. Are you familiar with the Dutch?
I love the Dutch test. I'm pro Dutch. So go ahead and talk about it.
Well, I think it's cool. And what I learned about when I did my functional diagnostic nutrition program, we were still doing salivary hormone testing at the time, which is useful. It's definitely better than blood. You get cortisol patterns, and there's been a lot of education on that, historically, because it's been around for a while. But the Dutch test is a little bit newer, and it's kind of blown up in the last year or two, from what I can see, and is taking over as like the new favorite from all the practitioners, because you get so much more information about how your body's processing hormones. So not just what's floating around today,
Right.
but you can pick up on things such as there's one marker that tells you if your kind of hormonal imbalances are more likely due to inflammation in the body or more likely to due to emotional stress. So then that gives you some action about what you can do about it. It also is really helpful for picking up on PCOS type of issues, whereas, I'm not a licensed practitioner, so I certainly don't diagnose that as a disease, but it's helpful to know if that's an underlying pattern for somebody, because previously when we did salivary testing, we might see a hormone called DHEA be low and have the urge to help supply the precursors, hormone precursors, to let the body rebuild. But if somebody is having a pattern where they take that DHEA and send it down a more androgenic route, that's going to be a disaster. That's actually going to cause more symptoms. And there's no way to know that from that unless somebody already pinpointed or had been diagnosed with PCOS. There wasn't really any way to know that from a salivary test, versus this, you can see and avoid that pitfall. So it's pretty powerful. And then the other one I really, that stands out from that is you can figure out a little bit about your body's phase 2 detox and its ability to sulfate the DHEA that you wouldn't really know otherwise. So you're testing your hormones, but you're also getting these clues into other things like detox, inflammation, and then even gut health with the melatonin. So it's common to see another hormone called melatonin that we need for, we know it as our sleep hormone, but it's also protective and has some antioxidant benefits and things like that. So if we see that low, we know that 80% of it's made in the gut. So you might suspect that something's off in the gut, or a lot of the other hormones are made also. So, you get so much from one test.
All right, I'll let you keep going.
Okay. Let me see. I was going to talk about hangry headaches next, so maybe I don't need to share. All right. So have you?
You're back.
Okay. I was like trying to not share something. So if you're the kind of person that gets headaches, if you skip a meal, it's good to just identify that as a trigger and start being really proactive about not putting yourself in that situation. And one thing you can do is try to avoid, really just never do this, where you just have a piece of fruit for a snack. I mean, we all know fruits are healthy and have lots of nutrition benefits and things like that. So I used to just maybe have like an orange or something like that for a snack. But the problem is that'll spike your blood sugar, and then it crashes back down really hard. And it kind of sets you up for this repeating cycle of unstable blood sugar. So what you can do instead, if you're going to have some fruit, make sure you pair it with something that has healthy fats like avocados or olive oil or olives or grass-fed jerky or those they have all these paleo sticks now. I ate a lot of sardines. I'm just trying to give you some ideas of foods that work pretty well on the go, or you can keep at your office or have with you when you travel. So you're always prepared and you don't have to put yourself in that situation. So things to avoid having alone, examples would be the fruits, maybe just a smoothie if it doesn't have fats in it, or juice, or granola bars, or cookies, heaven forbid, those kinds of things that have a lot of either processed refined flours or just carbs or sugar heavy are gonna cause issues if you don't balance it out with something else. So really emphasize having a stash of healthy fats. And maybe I should share, I have a blog with like a bunch of ideas, if that'd be helpful for
that would
you
be
to
good.
share. Can I put that on like a comment, or
we'll put
whenever
that
you post this, we'll put that there. So yeah, I used to have like a grocery store in my office, basically.
Wow.
It's just like a cabinet of things, because we get busy, and before you know it, you're just reaching for something, or your friend shares some crackers or something like that, and you don't even think about it anymore. So be a Girl Scout, be prepared for every possible situation, and that will avoid a lot of those hangry headaches. And then also questioning why your blood sugar is so prone to being unstable in the first place, because you may notice that you're having more problems than like average or than other people. And some reasons for that could be that your liver's working overtime to detox environmental toxins, or maybe there's a buildup if you have some detox challenges. So you can look into that with a functional practitioner and look at let's say a genetic test and organic acids test to see if there's any pathways that need to be supported. Looking, of course, you want to clean up the environmental toxins in your environment. You probably had other guests on here, Lane, to talk about that, but you'd be surprised how much that ties in to blood sugar balance, and then in turn causing headaches. It's just having less of a load on your liver.
What's so interesting is just how delicate the body is, right? The body, brain, the gut connection, and how we for years, just eat Cheetos, right? And then all of a sudden we wake up one day and we're like, I'm broken, right?
Yeah.
Kind of detangling and going through a massive detox and trying to sort out a menu that you can eat. And it's really, we're just sensitive little souls.
Yeah.
We need to take care of ourselves.
Take care of ourselves. Watching, supporting the adrenals can be helpful depending on where you're at. Like, I mean, I still drink coffee now, but there's a time when I couldn't handle coffee because I would get withdrawal headaches really bad if I was having it, but now I'm fine again. But I still notice, like, if I just have coffee on an empty stomach, that'll be another thing that kind of drives up your cortisol, which makes your body think it's in flight mode and releases like a rush of gets glucose to just kind of activate all your systems and be able to respond to that hypothetical tiger that's chasing you. And that sets you up for that roller coaster again. So kind of watching the caffeine intake, maybe balancing it with some healthy fats like the butter or bulletproof coffee, or blending coconut oil in your coffee helps a little bit. I try not to drink, just have plain coffee in the morning and nothing else. I feel like it sets me up for a blood sugar roller coaster for that day. Back to the adrenals. As long as your adrenals are off or having trouble, it'll be harder for your body to manage your blood sugar. So just kind of being aware of that and being kind to yourself is something good to know, because intermittent fasting is so trendy. You might see your office mate skipping lunch and they're just fine, but you do that and you're miserable the rest of the day. Don't push yourself for that.
Yeah, I just want to speak to that for a minute, because I get so upset about ladies in particular, right? Thinking, that they can go without breakfast and without lunch. And
Yeah.
hormonally, our bodies are just not set up for 16, 18-hour fast. Like, just no. So if you think that's a great idea, ladies, we're on the train here to help your migraines and to help your body. So maybe make a better choice in the morning of like eating like some like a chia yogurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chia pudding, an avocado and toast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Something really good to like not put you into that state of shock.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, you might see other people that are being successful, even other women that have been successful with fasting and ketosis and everything like that. But the mere fact that you're getting migraines and headaches still means that you're just not there yet.
No.
I wouldn't mess with it. I'd say, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat breakfast. You're so my 4-step program, it's the third step is healing, which is just setting the stage right now to heal your body. The PCOS diva, I like that she says, like, be a diva about yourself for this phase in your life. And that includes eating meals and eating when you're hungry, but at the same time, being conscious of don't eat even something healthy like fruit or a juice or something like that. Don't eat that by itself because that'll. So hopefully that's not too complicated. It all boils down to eating whole foods and incorporating healthy fats and proteins with every meal. That's all that I'm saying at the end of the day.
Right. I love it. I love it.
Love it.
What else do we have here?
What else do we have? I think I was going to talk about the bathtub theory. I guess I could show a picture since we have the screen share. Yeah. Let me pull it up really quick. Chrome. Okay, shameless reason to show my website. No. Let's see, bathtub theory. I just like it better with the pictures. So something that always frustrated me before I show you this was, as a migrainer, something that frustrated me was just that some days you'd be sensitive to a trigger like chocolate or even thunderstorms, and another day you'd be fine, and it makes you feel crazy, and it also kind of makes you seem less credible in the world to other people, because some days you can do it, some days you can't. They're like, is it a trigger or is it not a trigger? It really was something I had trouble wrapping my head around, and tracking it too then gets complicated because you're trying to be diligently tracking what's causing these things, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you look back on it, because again, it'll depend on the day and what else is going on in your body. So I had to come up with a way to explain to myself and now explain to other people how this really ties together, and how, if you think about it this way, it makes a lot of sense. And I call it the bathtub theory because here we've got a picture of a bathtub. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine it filling up with stress. So when you've just got a few stressors in your bathtub, you still feel okay. For example, work's kind of stressful and maybe you miss a night of sleep. If that's all that's going on in your life, your body can handle it and you might not even get a headache or a migraine. If you have more going on, let's say you also skipped lunch and now you're running late, now you start to get maybe the early signs of a migraine. Or for me, what used to happen a lot was I'd get tension headaches or sinus headache that then would just go a little bit further and trigger that migraine. So maybe that's where you're at when you've got some stress in your body. And then, oh my goodness, if you've got all these underlying stresses like a dairy sensitivity that you're not addressing and hormone imbalances, now you add that lunch that you skipped to it's like the tip of the iceberg and just spills over and causes the symptom of, if you're migraine prone, causes a migraine. So this applies to lots of different models of symptoms and things like that, because it just depends what you genetically are prone to expressing it as. So for people that are really prone to migraines, when the stress builds up, then it'll tip over and cause that. But for other people, it might tip over and cause joint pain or some other specific issue. But since we're talking about migraines here, what we want to do is lower the things in here that we can control. So on this picture, for example, we can work with a dairy sensitivity. You know, you don't have to eat dairy. So take that out, lowers the level of water in the bathtub. The hormone imbalance, let's start proactively working to rebalance that with some diet, lifestyle, and supplement types of things. Takes that down. You know, occasionally you might run into these other things, but that way you still have wiggle room at the top of your bathtub to deal with it. And if you can also, let's say, develop like a daily meditation practice to manage that work stress or whatever else, then it comes low enough that you can, I say this helps my clients eat more chocolate because you can then experience and encounter what used to be your triggers on a daily basis, but you have the resilience to cope with it. So hopefully that helps explain why you're not crazy. There's all these stress going on in your body. We just need to look at the things you can control, lower the level, so you have the wiggle room to deal with the things that will come up and that you don't have control over.
I love it. I love that visual.
Okay. What else can I share with you? That was the main things.
Great. All I see is your screen. Let's see.
Okay. Oh, I can stop sharing.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm back.
There we are. All right. Erin, that's a lot of information.
Okay.